Hello everybody and welcome back to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler, and with a brand new Modern format available to us now after the bans, Oko is gone. Mycosynth Lattice is gone. That's a crazy one, right? That was not something I saw coming, even though I hated playing against it. And Mox Opal. It's been a part of the format since day one. I think a piece of all 8 of the top 8 decks from the Pro Tour Philadelphia, the very first Modern event there ever was, have now been banned. Mox Opal finally died. And what that means, it's very sad for a lot of people, but you know what it's great for? It's great for Merfolk, everybody. That's right, Merfolk, my favorite deck in the world, and it has new life. So Mox Opal decks were always kind of the bane of Merfolk. Mono blue didn't have a lot of ways to deal with it, and old Affinity versus Merfolk, that was always the nightmare matchup, and there wasn't much you can do about it. Well, friends, things are a lot different these days. We have Force of Negation is a big one. We've got some more options, so I'm going to run you through, because I think Merfolk is pretty well positioned. People don't realize this, but after Modern Horizons was printed, along with Force of Negation, before the takeover by Oko, Merfolk was doing very well. It was putting up a lot of top 16s, a lot of 5-0 finishes, and then, of course, the metagame sort of went where it did. But now, look, the deck is back, okay? And I am excited to play it for you. It's my favorite deck. Okay, so what do? This is a little different than maybe those Merfolk lists you're used to seeing. We have no Master of Waves. We only have the one Merrow Reejerey. This is different. We're low to the ground here. Lots of stuff going on. So Benthic Biomancer at the 1-drop spot. Works with Adapt. You get to loot through your deck. We got a Curse Catch in there for old times, but I might actually change that out. We'll see. Silvergill Adept, the best card. This is my favorite card. I even tried to get the original art for this. Turns out it was done digitally and I can't, which is a tragedy because I love Silvergill Adept. Draws you a card by revealing a Merfolk. It just does everything. We got the Spreading Seas, of course, give your creatures Island Walk, which work with the 8 Lords here. These are basically 8 Lord of Atlantis effects, giving your Merfolk +1/+1 and Island Walk, meaning if your opponent controls an island, your creatures can't be blocked. And Spreading Seas gives them an island, plus cycles. Harbinger of the Tides, this bounces creatures your opponents have, and it's a combo with the Merrow Reejerey. You can play this, and when you cast it, the Merrow Reejerey will tap something they control, and then you can, of course, bounce it when this enters play. Or Merfolk Trickster can get in there to tap stuff. Flash creature, takes care of a lot of things, makes combat way better for you. And then sort of we've got a couple flex spots here. It's the Curse Catcher, it's the Echoing Truth, which is just a nice catch-all. The Force of Negations and the Dismember. So Force of Negation really was the difference. You know, Merfolk in Modern had to be a lot of different things that it couldn't be in Legacy, because in Legacy it always had Force of Will and you had great matchups against combo decks and so on. Modern Merfolk didn't have that, and you had to play stuff like Spell Pierce and Curse Catcher, and as the format got more lean and more efficient, those things they just didn't keep up. But Force of Negation is here now. It does pretty much everything you want it to do, and of course the whole deck runs off of Aether Vial, letting you cheat your mana. So, but here's the thing, I actually, you know what, I'm feeling this. We're gonna play a Thassa today, everybody. Thassa, God of VC. I love this card. It is a really sweet card. If your devotion is 5, it's a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1, helps you dig through your deck, and you can make stuff unblockable. So lots of ways to make unblockable creatures here. Looking at the lands, we didn't get Oko or Once Upon a Time or Gilded Goose or any of the Eldraine cards. We can't play Emry, any of the Eldraine cards that have really made a difference in the format, but we do get Castle Vantress. We have plenty of islands in this deck, and this gives you even more ability to set up your draws in the late game, because one of the problems Merfolk can have is running out of gas, but now with this sort of build, we don't have to worry about that as much. Cavern of Souls, uncounterable. Fiery Islet and Waterlogged Grove, because it's just more ways to dig through the deck. This deck has some velocity, I believe is the term. That means that we just get to churn through our deck. Almost every draw is going to be a live draw one way or another. It's great. We even have a Faerie Conclave to go along with the Mutavaults here to attack in a little more. Looking at the sideboard, fairly straightforward, but there's some good ones here. I love Tidebinder Mage. Tap a red or green creature an opponent controls. It doesn't untap as long as you control Tidebinder Mage. So you can tap down those Tarmogoyfs, those Goblin Guides, whatever you want. Ceremonious Rejection for your Tron players. Relic and Grafdigger's Cage for the Graveyard decks or Court of Calling decks. Deprive is another counterspell you can run in this deck. You just have to pick up a land. That's no problem here. And it's just an unconditional counter. This is really important in a lot of matchups. And, of course, Dismember, when you just need to kill, Glistener Elf or whatever. Well, there you go, everybody. It is Modern Merfolk here on Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler. Let's get right to it. Hey, everybody. Here we go with Modern Merfolk. Now, this hand is an interesting hand, but you know what? I'm going to go for this. And this is one of those hands that, look, things were different before the London Mulligan, I think. But before the London Mulligan, I would keep this hand every time. I would say you don't play Merfolk unless you're willing to keep one land hands. And while I think that the London Mulligan makes that less true than before, I'm still going to be a little greedy and keep this. Because, look, if we hit a land on turn 2, which would be fairly lucky, right? Then we're completely ready to go. But if not, this Aether Vial is going to get us there anyways. So I think that while this hand is a risk, it has everything we want. And we didn't get there, right? But we can... Next turn, we get to draw another card. We get to put the Silvergill into play off of the Vial to try to find a land there. And if we hit a land at that point, then we get to lead out with another Silvergill. And we're doing okay, right? We have plenty of gas for the long game here. And because I think we were on the play, we're able to get away with that without having to ship it. Now, maybe that's wrong. I famously like to not mulligan as much as I probably should. But I think in this case, it's at least defensible. And we're not sure exactly what our opponent's up to here, but there we go. This is working out just fine for us. It's also, it helps if this is uncounterable, right? That's always pretty good. So we will cast this. We will reveal this Silvergill. And get a draw card here. All right, there we go. We hit another Mutavault. We get to pass the turn. We get a Violin. Whatever we want on their instep here. So the thing with this version of Merfolk, as opposed to where the deck would have been before, is that now you can keep your Vials on 2. You don't have to tick them up to 4 for the occasional Master of Waves, or we only have the 2/3 drops with Thassa, Merrow Reejerey. It's kind of like Legacy, where you can just comfortably keep your Vial on 2. Our opponent, by the way, let's see here, cast spells. Well, they might end up bouncing our Vial here, I guess. That wouldn't be very good for them. Honestly, none of this is good for them, right? We get to Vial in this Silvergill anyways. Draw our card off of it. This is not how our opponent wanted to use the Faerie, I guarantee you that. Now, it is, I guess, a little awkward, actually. So we hit the island here. I was going to say, you could make the argument that maybe I wanted to play a Lord out there so that I would have enough blue mana here. But in this case, it obviously works out fine because we're able to do this, play out a Lord of Atlantis, and then replay our Vial. So I'm really not sure if my opponent is blue-white control over there or what. But our hand is set up very well against either because I don't even care. If they untap in Wrath here, it's actually just a 1-for-1 because both of these Silvergills cycled, right? We drew a card off of both of them, so it doesn't even matter if they were to Wrath in terms of card advantage. They just paid 4 mana to trade for our Lord of Atlantis at that point, right? So this works out fine. And then we even have the double Mutavault here to get in as well should we ever need to go about attacking with our lands. If somehow we do run out of gas, so... Our opponent with the Mystic Sanctuary coming into play tapped, and they're just going to Field of Ruin down the Mutavault. That works out just fine for me, because I have some blue symbols I would like to cast, and we have another Mutavault waiting in the wings here. And now they're going to Path our Lord. Yep, this is all perfectly reasonable. Clearing our deck out of lands. Look, we kept a 1-lander, and we are in the clear, as I knew we would be. Okay. Let's see what we want to do here. So, another creature land there. So, I definitely want to play the Thassa, and I can Vial in the Biomancer. I think I like the Mutavault here. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with the Mutavault. Play the Mutavault, play the Thassa out. Oh, I can't do it like this. Tapped wrong. Thassa, by the way, not a Merfolk. Honorary Merfolk, but not a Merfolk. Alright, we'll get this out. We'll get in for 4. The reason I like this line is the Mutavault over the Conclave is that the Mutavault costs less to activate. 1 as opposed to 2, and it doesn't have evasion, but against our blue-white opponent, that probably won't matter all that much. But by playing the untapped land, I'm able to Vial in the Biomancer at the end of the turn and activate its ability. So if my opponent were to Wrath, we're going to untap with a 2/2 here and figure out what we want to do. Plus, were it something else I'm not expecting, we could cast our Trickster. Basically, what I'm saying is we have a lot of options here. Plus, by the way, remember we'll be scrying every turn. Alright, put in the Biomancer. This was such a cool addition to the deck. Good work, R&D. This was exactly what Merfolk wanted. I mean, I'd take Mausoleum Wanderer. Obviously, that would be what I'd really want, but this is pretty solid. So my opponent's going to Snapcaster a Path to Exile here, but again, this is not where they want to be at all. They're going to give us another land. I have 3 Devotion. I could play the Trickster if I wanted and just get in there with the Thassa. So we'll see. You know, Snapcaster is part of the way into the game for them, that's for sure. So because they're doing it in response to the ability, I actually don't even get to loot. That's okay. I will untap Scry. And then, well, our vial's going up anyways. Okay, so there we go. We're going to put that vial on bottom. We're going to take this one up here and see what we hit. Another, that's what I like to see, another Silvergill. So, yeah, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with the Trickster here. And I'm going to tap this down. And the reason I'm going to do this, and I'm doing this in my main phase, is because it turns Thassa into a creature. And if our opponent's last card is another Path to Exile, you know what? Good for them. But this way, we get in for a lot of damage. And we still have the Silvergill Adept next turn, or at the end of, on their end step, coming in to play off our vial here. So we're getting in there for 11, right? Our opponent's at 12, we're coming in for 11. So if they don't have Path, they're in a lot of trouble. And they do not. So that's great for us. I get to play the Conclave. I get to pass the turn. This is exactly how Merfolk dismantles blue-white control, right? This was... And think about it. They had to spend a removal spell on a Benthic Biomancer. If that was a Curse Catcher, they just wouldn't care at all because that's not... You know, that's not really a relevant tax effect anymore. But because it was a loot, they had to care about it. All right, so my opponent's representing Cryptic Command here. Not really something I'm too concerned about, to be honest. I guess I could also have something like Settle the Wreckage. I keep that on top. Has Flash. I didn't vial this in, by the way, because if my opponent has a Wrath, I don't need to do anything, right? So here's what we're going to do. The way Cryptic Command works is I'm going to attempt to go to combat. If I go to combat, great. I get to attack with my creatures and win the game. If my opponent has a Cryptic, I get to retain command at the beginning of combat here and activate my Faerie Conclave and attack for lethal with that. So... it's I pass priority is the way it works, and then if my opponent has a response, they get to do something. But had I instead fired these up beforehand, they would be tapped along with it. But because I didn't, I get to turn Faerie Conclave into a creature right here, and then I get to turn my Mutavault into a creature and attack for lethal. So, well, I guess the Mutavault isn't quite lethal, but I would have given it unblockable with Thassa, so we have 2 lethal attackers. That is an old trick you got to learn how to get by a Cryptic Command. So, all right, let's get these Deprives in here. I didn't see Stoneforge Mystic, but it's probably reasonable to assume my opponent would have it. Echoing Truth actually not very good against Teferi deck, that's for sure. The rest of this, though, very good. Excuse me, Harbinger of the Tides, probably not what we want. Likely our worst creature by far. I think this looks fine. I'll keep the 1 Dismember. You know, you can occasionally hit the Snapcaster, but if there's a Colonnade you can hit, you may be able to get a Stoneforge, that sort of thing. We just want, look, we kept a 1-lander, it worked out perfectly. We want a repeat of that game. So this is an interesting hand, but I think I have to keep it. 4 lands is not really where you want to be, but any hand with Silvergill is generally good. Deprive works as well, and of course the Islet can cycle later on in the game. So this hand has a lot going for it, even if it kind of looks, it's certainly worse than our last hand, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, Magic Online, I hear you. All right, so opponent leading with the Mystic Sanctuary tapped here. They did not mulligan. We hit another Deprive. That's interesting. Very reactive draw here, anyways, with the Deprives. We would love to lead on Aether Vial. That didn't happen, but we run out the Silvergill. We make our opponent sort of do something about it, and they do have Stoneforge Mystics. Okay. This is probably not ideal for us, trying to get around a Stoneforge, but again, Trickster helps quite a bit against Batterskulls. It is unfortunate being on the draw, we're not able to deprive that. If we were on the play and we deprive that Stoneforge, that would be great. They actually went for the Sword of Feast and Famine there. Alright, well. Let's do it then. So our hand is the hand we want against the control draw from our opponent. Oh, just a little late on the Dismember. That is why I kept it in the deck. Who knows? Maybe we can... I say we can use it. We can technically kill a Batterskull token with it, making our opponent pick it up. And, I mean, that slows them down quite a bit, if nothing else. I don't know that that's really what I want to do, but it is certainly a thing we could do. Okay. Well, we'll play out the Relic here. Our hand was great against the control draw from our opponent. Not as good against the Stoneforge Mystic draw, unfortunately. So like I said, I could go for the play of dismembering the Batterskull, but I think that only really works once we have pressure. So I think what I'm going to do instead here is go for the Trickster on the Batterskull. I bled with the Waterlogged Grove there instead of the island in case something were to go differently on their turn that would lead me to want to crack that. Like I said, I don't expect that to be what happens, but who knows. Alright, so likely just going for the Trickster play here on the Batterskull. That allows us to get some creatures in play, and then, you know, we crack in there for 4. It starts to get a little more reasonable. Oop, guess I'm going to need to stop on my opponent's turn to do that. Rip. Fair enough. We'll do that next turn. Oh, I guess playing the Waterlogged Grove was one way to play around. One way to play around not having my stop set. I think this is fine here. There's a Lord. Alright, so Lord is very good. We can just blow right by our opponent's defenses. At least we can try to anyways. Alright, so I think the play here is going to be to pass the turn. Go for the Trickster play this turn. Then we can untap into Lord with Deprive. Yep. So if my opponent spends their mana on their turn to tap to attach that to something, we also then get to Trickster it down. And we definitely sort of show that we don't have a Trickster, so we might be able to squeeze some tempo out of this here. It's going to be hard. It's obviously hard when your opponent has a turn 2 Stoneforge and you don't have the Dismember right away. Merfolk is a deck that can struggle with dealing with this. But Trickster into Island Walk is certainly how we want to try to start. Yeah, I could have also gone for the Dismember play on that there. Maybe that would have been better. It's hard to say. We'll Dismember this thing while we can. It is mana efficient to do so. I don't know. I think it's possible I could have taken some better lines this game. Obviously, not having a stop set kind of hurt us a little bit, but okay. Well, time to race, I guess. We get to attack for 8. We don't know what our opponent's up to over there. You know, I also could have... obviously, I could have played one Lord and held up Deprive, but I think our play here is to put enough pressure on with the race, if we can, that our opponent has to Wrath, if they have a Wrath, and then they'd have to be on the plane where they pick up Batterskull, and then we can counter it on the way back down with Deprive. Brazen Borrower, huh? Okay. That's not great for us, but I guess it doesn't necessarily change too much. Makes our clock a little worse. We were just a turn late on that Stoneforge Mystic, or that Dismember draw for the Mystic. It is going to be pretty difficult here. We really needed to get an 8 that turn, have him down to 14, and then have lethal sitting on the board, because this coming in for this much damage is just very, very difficult to do anything about. Probably throw away Deprive here. We need Tricksters. This is the one hit we can take, so we'll see see what we can do here. Yep. Yeah, I don't think that holding up Deprive, we would have deprived the Brazen Borrower. I don't know that would have really done much for us. We're going to have to hope just in Game 3 we either have a better draw against the Stoneforge Mystic plan, or we... Wow, they're just going for the Ambush Viper Snapcaster Mage here. We either have to have a draw that deals with this better, or they draw the other half of their deck. Our draw did not line up with theirs. Okay, so they've got... The world is their oyster right now. So we'll see what we can do. We did break off the Snapcasters. We just got Stoneforge Mystic a little hard. Maybe I do want some Dismembers in here. All right, play our Lord. We do get a swing in for a bunch. But it seems, I mean, it seems very likely our opponent has something here. It's possible we get him with the Deprive. And they're just going to take it. Okay, well, the thing is, if they're really brave, they have the win, right? They could just throw the Batter Skull onto the Brazen Borrower and attack us. I think I might get the Echoing Truth back in here for that reason. Bouncing a Germ seems pretty good. Like I said, it's new Modern, and it's been such an Oko format. I have to say, I haven't jammed quite as many games against Stoneforge as you might expect, but we're figuring it out as we go here. All right, they are going to go for a spell, and it is... See, that is a very bold play on their part, because if we had a Trickster here, we would tap this thing down, and then we're untapping with lethal. So we don't have it here, but our opponent certainly gave us a chance. Oh, I was supposed to draw first. Okay, doesn't matter. Could have cycled one with the Relic there. All right, let's give this a shot. Board out a Force. Oh, we had the Echoing. All right, so... Yeah, but I think this is pretty much what we want. I could board out a Deprive or a Spreading Seas here. We're going to be on the play this game, though, which is going to be much better for us. Let's give the 2 Deprives a shot. We need to answer the Stoneforge more than anything else. Well, this is a... I think this has to be a keep, right? This is a... It seems like a hand you can't mulligan. Unfortunately... It is a hand that's a little weak to a turn 2 Stoneforge, but there's no way we can ship this hand. It's just too good, right? We have Vial into Deprive into Thassa with a Relic up for the Snapcaster. Just don't turn 2 Stoneforge us and we'll be okay. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Please, my opponent has mulligan down to 6. They kept that 6, though. Yeah, we just want to get this Thassa online as soon as possible, so hopefully we hit a land for it, because this is something we're going to need. Assuming our opponent does have a turn 2 Stoneforge, we're going to need to be able to deal with it. And since we can't do that yet, we're going to have to draw to it. But the other thing we do have going for us here is that I can just deprive the Stoneforge on turn 2 if they do have it. So that is certainly one plan. And honestly, that might work out pretty well, right? If we deprive and then we get to untap into Thassa plus Master the Pearl Trident. The difference between being on the play and being on the draw, pretty enormous. Looks like our opponent doesn't actually have it, though. And now I have to figure out how I want to play the game, because that makes things more interesting. My opponent... Wow, they're just going for... I'm going to counter this, I think. Surely if they had a Stoneforge, they just would have jammed it, right? It's so tempting to get both halves of the petty, if we counter the petty theft, they can't cast the creature. On the other hand, is it really so bad if I just go slow and replay my Vial? I can replay Vial and keep up Deprive. Basically, we just have to decide how we want to deal with Stoneforge Mystic. That's what this is right now. If we think they don't have Stoneforge because they would have jammed it on turn 2, then I obviously want to snap off Deprive here so that I can Vial in. I can play my Relic and then Vial in my Master next turn, or this turn rather. On the other hand, if we think they do have Stoneforge and they chose not to play it into Counterspell mana, then we might want to let this resolve so that we always hold up Deprive at all costs. Or if we can hedge, right? If we counter this, but we're wrong and they do have Stoneforge, can we still win the game from that point? That's the other way to look at it. I just don't know the answer. I'm really tempted to just let this happen. This makes the game go slow, and this takes forever to kill us. We can probably race this thing, but we can't, So I've decided that Stoneforge is how I lose, and I'm not going to lose to Stoneforge, right? I think it's perfectly reasonable to say in a matchup, this might not work out, but this is the line I'm taking, and I'm going to stick to it. On turn 2, I didn't play my Master of the Pearl Trident. I held up Deprive. And a Teferi. Okay, I think it's pretty clear at this point they don't have... I'm going to go... I think it's... At this point, I think it's clear they don't have Stoneforge. Surely they would have played it by now, right? Like I said, what I was saying is I think it's reasonable to decide that this is what I care about in this matchup, and I'm not going to lose to it. I'm just not going to lose to Stoneforge Mystic, so I'm going to play the game in ways that, make sure that doesn't happen, even if those ways may not seem, perfect. But in this case, I think that, I think they would have definitely played it by turn, on either turn 2 or turn 3. What they were doing is just this very slow Brazen Borrower your Vial, Teferi your Vial, and just make the game go forever. I think that they would have likely played Stoneforge on one of those turns had they had it. Maybe I'm wrong, and if so, we'll attempt to race the Stoneforge. And with the scrying we have every turn, it is reasonable that we can do something like that, but looks like I deduced that correctly. And I think I'm willing to keep this. I like playing it instant speed. We even get to play this value relic here that we get to preempt the any Snapcaster. All right, so time to just pass the turn here. This is one of those games, and honestly, this is the reason for a long time I even ran, what was the card? Monastery Siege, the blue. Okay, so my opponent plays this. I'm going to stop him. I'm going to go ahead and Trickster this thing down. I played Monastery Siege, which was you could loot on your draw step. You gotta draw an extra card and loot. So that was pretty neat. All right, so we get this in play around the counter magic. I don't care that they get attacked with this. I just wanted to get my creature in play. It's reasonable to make an argument to do it at the beginning of combat, and that probably would have been. It certainly could have been better, but there's something to be said for just resolving my creatures against counter magic. And they're going for the sword, so we're going to get punished for it, that's for sure. Fortunately, we do have a card to discard, and I'm feeling okay about the race here. We'll discard the island. We will get to, on their instep, Vial in the Master of the Pearl Trident. We can also cycle the Relic if we really want to. All right, get our Lord out here. Thassa is now a creature, so my opponent's at least letting me untap with it. That's a good sign. And we get to scry and see what we hit. So they do have the path. But they did not have a stop on their end step, so we're gonna get a free scry in here. All right, put our land into play. Scry this Aether Vial to the bottom, and hope to draw something good. What do we hit? Ah, Silvergill. Not bad, I would say. So, my opponent's down to 2 cards. I think I'm just going for this here. Let's put this thing in. Let's put this out here. Let's draw a card. I guess the only bad... There's really not any... I mean, that's not a good draw, but let's go ahead and attack for 5. I mean, this kills us in 3 turns. If my opponent's not really getting anything out of the... we don't have any cards to discard, you know, this is reasonable. It probably should have held my Trickster for their turn. But I didn't like the idea of them having Cryptic Command mana for the rest of the game. Right, with us having nothing in play. That was my line. That was my thought process there. Obviously, I didn't expect them to untap into a sword. I'm thinking we're racing Brazen Borrower, not racing Brazen Borrower plus sword. There, however, is the Cryptic. So my opponent cycles that, taps us down. All right, well, we may end up popping the Relic on their incept, depending on what they show us here. Well, or we may do it in response to this Mystic Sanctuary. Let's start by doing this. Not that this particularly matters, but... Okay. Unfortunately, this does mean we will have to discard. I mean, maybe I could have held the... Maybe I could have held the island for that purpose, but I didn't expect Mystic Sanctuary to be the draw. And my opponent just goes straight to combat, though, so we don't know what's in their hand here. And discarding this Lord is obviously unfortunate, but we do still have plenty of power in play to race, right? We have 8. I guess 8 is actually not quite enough. We're going to need to find a Lord or another creature, but we can see if we can do it here. I don't think we're ever going to beat another Cryptic Command. We certainly got punished for not just depriving that Brazen Borrower. But that's the way it goes sometimes, right? Alright, get our opponent down to 9. Let's see if we can hit either a Trickster on our turn. I guess we have 1 Harbinger left. We also, not that Harbinger would actually really work, they could still just flash it back in. So we need a Lord or a Trickster to not die here. Timely reinforcements, huh? Well, that was pretty good. These blue-white decks these days, with the Stoneforge package, it just adds a completely different angle to the deck that you're really just it's harder to play against. They're not just one thing. They're not just a slow control deck you have to play against. You have to play against this entire equipment package. You know, timely reinforcements before, probably not that big of a deal. Timely reinforcements now, when you're also getting beat down by a sorted up creature, kind of rough. There's the Trickster, though. Alright, well, I gotta slam with the creatures that can attack. These have Island Walk. This puts our opponent down to 9. We've got a shot here. If our opponent's last 3 cards are bad, that Trickster was a huge draw for us. If we can catch a break here, I think we might be able to pull this out. If their last 3 cards don't kill us, or is a Wrath or something like that, we might be able to get this through. And given the fact that they just took a bunch of damage from our creatures here, it's certainly at least plausible that we're going to win this game. Like I said, I don't think we're favored to, but, you know, Stoneforge Mystic doesn't do it. So that's the Batterskull or whatever. None of those cards do it. I don't think I'm worried about a pump spell. I guess I'll block. There is a difference between 4 and 3 against them. I suspect there's a Wrath coming. Yeah, but here we go. Moment of truth, right? Well, there's... Alright, there's a Supreme Verdict. Okay, well, we have life. Let's see what we can do with it. Our opponent's at 9. That's reasonable. Come on, deck. You know what? Spreading Seas is not bad. Don't want to hit that one. We'll go after the Hallowed Fountain. Why not? This is the kind of thing where Merfolk can get going a little bit. You end up cycling spells, Spreading Seas into Silvergill, into a Lord or something, or a Benthic Biomancer like that. Not that we have anything to to do with the draw ability here, but you know what? This is a threat. That's going to get mana leaked. Okay. So what's most interesting about that mana leak is our opponent's last card is it is very possible that play I made on turn 3 or whatever that you all probably hated where I put in a creature over going for it on their turn. Like I said, I don't know if that was the right call, but hey, they had a mana leak. So I was playing around counter magic and they did have the counter magic. Whether or not it was correct to do so, I can't necessarily answer that, but I guess I'm somewhat vindicated that they had the counter magic at least. All right, well, we're in an okay position here. Imagine if this was a curse catcher. It'd be such a bad draw right now. But instead, it's like new life, right? We either draw a good card, or we get to draw a land or whatever, and we get to Benthic Biomancer it away. So, and our opponent is passing the turn back. All right, here we go. Come on, deck. Always no. I believe we don't even have any 3-drops left, so we boarded out the Reejerey, I believe, and we already played our Thassa, and that, friends, is a Lord. Oops. All right, get in here with the Biomancer. My opponent goes for no blocks. Let's file in our Lord. And at this point, we just have to, we just got to go for it, right? I'm a little tempted. In fact, I'm going to. I'm just going to do this. Even though we can't do anything with the ability. Well, that kind of is all the same. This is 3, though. And 3 is a very key number because it puts our opponent dead in 3 swings from the Biomancer. Which is huge, right? That invalidates some number of outs our opponent could have. Of course, it might not matter. They might have drawn a good card, but we've at least made it to the end step. They did find a good card. That's pretty bad for us. It doesn't do a ton for them, for what it's worth. They can't cast the timely reinforcements here in our end step, but they can put the sword on it and force the chump block from us. All right, well, let's see what happens here. Wish I had 5 life instead of 4, that's for sure. I could have taken the hit. It's still not dead, though. We've got... I mean, I guess another Trickster is what we'd love to draw, right? Come on, deck. Prayer hands emoji, everybody. Oh, no. Imagine if we had that last turn. Imagine if our draws were just slightly different. Oh, man. I mean, I guess I can chump block again. Oh, what a tragedy. If we had just one more life, I could have taken the hit and at least threatened lethal here, but I could have swung for 3, put my opponent down to 3. We just needed them to miss on one draw step. They were down to no cards in hand, and they drew Snapcaster Mage. Unfortunate. Well, looks like they even got something else here. Are you kidding me? They went Snapcaster into Cryptic Command. That's pretty good. All right, we'll deprive it. We live to fight another day. I guess this sort of makes another Benthic Biomancer a reasonable-ish draw. Wow, our opponent just had it all, huh? All right, GG's. We played that game. I don't know. I'm not going to say I played that game perfectly, but you know what? We chose to play around certain things, and sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't, and that's the way these matchups can go, right? If I just deprived that Brazen Borrower on turn 2, we very likely would have won. But it's also possible my opponent, was on the next level and they were trying to bait out a counterspell and then deploy a Stoneforge that we really reasonably couldn't have beaten. So, it's tough to say. It's tough to say. So, doesn't always work out the way you want it to, but that was still a good match, everybody. All right, let's see if we have better luck in the next one. Let's go. All right, everybody, more Modern Merfolk. We are on the play in this one, so I'm going to mulligan this hand. Gross. Am I going to go to 5? Man, this hand's good if it draws a land, isn't it? I think I have to mulligan. Jeez. All right, well, this is the keep. Yeah, this is what we got to do. I don't love it, I'll tell you that, but you know what? It's not bad, though. I mean, Vial, Spreading Seas, these are powerful cards. If we can, draw good cards that aren't lands, then hopefully we can, play the game on 2 or 3 lands the entire way through. And if our opponent just draws a couple extra lands, we've sort of made up for it. That's the hope, at least. Let's see if they give us a Spreading Seas target. They did. A good one, as a matter of fact. It's actually possible. It's possible I was supposed to lead with Mutavault there. That way, if my opponent played a fetch land or something that I couldn't Spreading Seas, I could have actually just activated the Mutavault and attacked. Of course, that gets kind of iffy because if your opponent has a Lightning Bolt or something, you don't really want to get bolted there. But so it's kind of a judgment call. I do know that Spreading Seas as Stomping Ground feels pretty good, though. Drawing 2 lands on that turn certainly does not feel quite as good. So we want Silvergill Adepts at this point. We want Thassa. I mean, we've got a plan for what it's worth. We can swing with Mutavault, Vial, and our Harbinger. We've got some things we can do here. Leon and our, so we're against Naya Taxes, huh? Okay. Sure, why not? So I'll just fire up the Mutavault, swing with it. I doubt my opponent's going to attack. They're probably just going to play Ghost Quarter or whatever on their turn and take out our Mutavault that way. We may as well get our damage in for it, but I don't want to, play around something like that and hold up mana. Leon and Arbiter, of course, is players can't search libraries. You can pay 2 to ignore that effect until end of turn. So everyone has to learn this the hard way, but on Magic Online, you as the opponent click this card. It's not a thing where you get Ghost Quartered and then Magic Online prompts you and says, would you like to pay 2 to search your library? That's not how it works. Instead, this is literally an ability that anyone can control. All right, so let's grayed out where weird. Okay, there we go. So this changes things a little bit here. I'm actually going to play out the Lord instead. Just going to put as much power as we can into play. If my opponent does have a, there's a couple ways here. If they go for the Ghost Quarter pre-combat, then they're going to get us. But suppose they just attacked first, did it in their second main phase. We could actually Harbinger in to not get Ghost Quartered. So we'll see what they do. They're going to make the right play here and get it now. This is how you build your own strip mine. Leon and Arbiter and Ghost Quarter here in Modern. So I assume our opponent won't attack. Will attack. Wow, I thought they would. Okay. They're missing a land drop there as well. So I'm just going to go for this. Or rather, they didn't do anything is what I mean for their turn. They didn't miss the land drop, but they weren't able to progress their board state at all. They just strip mined our Mutavault. That was it. They didn't really do anything meaningful with their turn. So, misspeak on missing a land drop, but same effect in that they didn't do anything, right? They could, of course, just be holding up path. We'll see here. But it's also possible we just kind of got him with the Spreading Seas. Unlikely, but possible. I would like to find a Silvergill Adept right about now. Silvergill Adept into Spreading Seas. That would be the dream, as a matter of fact. Or Spreading Seas into Silvergill Adept might be better. That way I can play the Adept on their end step. Alright, well that is, of course, if we ever get to activate this Aether Vial. I don't know about Naya Taxes. Death and Taxes in Legacies, I'm on a white deck. There's a lot of black-white taxes in Modern. There's Eldrazian taxes. I've seen red-white taxes. I've even seen green-white taxes, but I've never seen red-green-white taxes. Seems a little questionable, if I'm being honest, because you are playing Leon and Arbiter, and that means you can't really play fetch lands in your deck, which makes the idea of playing land the 3 colors kind of sketch. So maybe they're getting punished right now. Maybe they should have ghost quartered themselves. All right, so we drew a Harbinger here. Certainly a reasonable draw. Wow, that's how they're playing 3 colors, huh? Just Mana Confluence. And a Qasali Pride Mage. Okay. I would love for them to attack me right now. This was a throwback right here. Qasali Pride Mage, Exalted, and you can sack it to destroy... What is happening? Why are we adding mana? Oh, they're going to go for this. Well, they did this wrong. Or, I mean, maybe not wrong, but the line they took here is not going to work out. So they attacked so they could get the Exalted trigger, because the card is one of the greatest bears of all time, right? In a historical context, it's a green-white 2/2 with Exalted. So when one of your creatures attacks alone, it gets +1/+1, but it can sack itself to blow up an artifact or enchantment. So my opponent went to combat, then blew up my Aether Vial, so they get the Exalted trigger. But unfortunately for them, that meant that Arbiter was tapped, and they got completely blown out. And now we're going to be swinging back for 8 points of damage here. Our opponent must have an upkeep stop they just keep forgetting about. Because now we don't have a Vial trigger that they're thinking about. They're just stuck. Well, obviously, we have a lot of good draws here. I guess Silvergill has become a bad draw because without a Merfolk to reveal, you either reveal a Merfolk or you pay 3 additional mana. And since we only have 3 lands, of course, we're not going to have the 5 mana it takes to play them. Thassa, however, that's a draw I can get behind. We have the Devotion for it. We get a move to combat here. Swing at 8 for our opponent. We have Island Walk on creatures. We're going to get a Scry next turn. We have the Devotion. In fact, we have 7 Devotion in play right now. So our opponent could even, remove one of our... Even if they had a kill spell for our Lord, Thassa would still be a creature here. So, and of course, if they have a kill spell for Thassa, we still have a Lord and we have Island Walk. So this is a pretty bad state of affairs for my opponent. Like I said, they used that Ghost Quarter for their turn 3, and that is good against a lot of decks, and we had a Mutavault, so it wasn't bad against us, but wasn't very good either, because that board was in our favor, given that the Vial's the difference, right? And as you can see, it leads to a win for us. So onto the sideboard here, I want these Dismembers. So we saw red and green. Do I want Tidebinder Mages? I think I probably cut some forces here. I think we're playing a fair game. I could be wrong, but I think we're playing fair anyways. I'm not going to... I don't have any idea what the Stomping Ground is for. Like, Voice of Resurgence is green-white. Red-white if they're playing, like, I don't know, Magus of the Moon, that sort of thing. But then you're not playing Mana Confluence in that circumstance. So I kind of just like doing this. Boarding in the Dismembers, boarding out some forces. Force of Negation, obviously a great card, but it is sort of like the rules of Force of Will in Legacy. Against a fair deck, you take it out because it is inherently card disadvantage. As powerful as it is, you are 2 for 1 yourself. It's also one of the reasons when you play against a deck like Jund or something in Modern, a lot of times Merfolk boards out its Aether Vials, which is something that just sounds crazy to a newer player playing the deck, but that's some of the best advice I have. If you're playing against something like Mardu Pyromancer or Jund or The Rock, board out those Vials, because those decks are going to kill all of your creatures. The matchups come down to just having the last creature in play, and if instead of having creatures you have Aether Vial, that's no good for you. Vial is great for tempo. It's good in this matchup. It's good against decks where you want to play at instant speed. It's very bad against decks that just want to point removal at you on a 1-for-1 basis and then have a Tarmogoyf, right? So in that case, it's the tempo doesn't matter because they're always going to have removal spells. They cost so little. Now this hand... I want to keep this. We certainly kept something like this in the first round, but in this case, knowing what we're up against, and this Cavern of Souls not making mana for the Spreading Seas, and there being no Silvergills here, it is very tempting to throw it back. On the other hand, we do have the Dismember for one of their first creatures. I'm just worried because they showed us that Qasali Pride Mage in game 1. And if that were to happen and they went, mana dork into that and just blew us up on turn 2 or something, we'd be completely hosed. I think we can safely ship this one. By the way, Molda 5 we won on last round. Alright, this is better. Similar hand, but without a Dismember, but very good, possibly better. So I'll probably throw back the Faerie Conclave here, I guess. It's that or the Castle. I think I'm going to throw back the Faerie Conclave because I just want to go Island, Vial, Island, and then turn to Castle Silvergill here. Our opponent thinking if they're going to mulligan as well. But Faerie Conclave is sort of the 5th Mutavault in the deck, and it's nice because it has evasion and it blocks Inkmoth Nexus and other relevant things. But at the same time, it obviously has a big cost of coming into play tapped. And while most of the time you can get rid of that, you can sort of deal with that, and it's not a big deal. There are hands like this one where it would actively mess us up if, say, these Castle Vantresses were Conclaves. And I have seen some versions of Merfolk that are running 2-3 Conclaves, and that, in my opinion, leads to a lot of clunky draws. I like having the one, but I also like having access to the castle, which almost always comes into play untapped. And gives you good value in the late game. Like I said, it's the same thing, right? Those decks I was talking about, the grindy decks that are going to sort of remove all your creatures, and it's all about the late game, Before, those were the times where Merfolk would draw Curse Catcher and just die, right? Or they just draw a couple lands in a row and just die. But these days, Benthic Biomancer, Castle Vantress, you have a lot of ways to not have dead draws in the late game. And it's sort of unfortunate that Merfolk got better in that way, right? Merfolk's improvements over the past year or so have been making its late game better, which is what the deck always needed. It always had the great tempo draws. It always had the ability to island to walk people out, but it struggled against the grindy mid-range decks or control decks, right? And all the tools we've gotten in the past year, I guess Force of Negation helps with combo, but we got so much better with the Merfolk deck at playing into the late game, but Modern got so fast at the same time that there's no late game. But like I said, I think that Oko slowed the format down a ton, but honestly, the format was already slowing down. Force of Negation helped us slow the format down, and now that Karn doesn't exist either, Teferi's also going to slow the format down, right? Just by existing. I think there's going to be a lot of Simic Nexus decks. I think Titan decks, field decks. I think that's probably sort of where the format's going right now, especially with Uro, the card from Theros, the Titan itself, right? It's a giant, just like Primeval Titan, so the Cavern of Souls can name Titan in those decks, or giant, I suppose. Anyways, the one that you draw a card, put a land into play for 3 mana, and then it escapes for 4. I think that card in that deck with the Field of the Dead Titan decks are going to be sort of the level 0 of the new Modern format. And this is a deck that probably fares pretty decently against that. We can Island Walk, go pretty quickly. So, all right, options here. My opponent is almost assuredly going to Ghost Quarter us or something next turn. You know what I'm going to do? There are so many options here, right? Obviously, we could just play our Silvergill, which is most of the time what I would do here. At the same time, I really don't want to get Ghost Quartered. I could also spread and seize my opponent's Copperline Gorge, leaving them with just the Gemstone Mine and its, ever lowering amount of counters here. Or I could do all kinds of things. But you know what I'm actually going to do, I think, is pass the turn. And if our opponent goes for the same line, which the reason I don't want to go for the mana destruction plan with the Spreading Seas is because they have the Vial. They're probably going to be able to do whatever they want anyways. And unfortunately, I guess it's probably not going to work out quite how we want. I was hoping that if they go for the Ghost Quarter, I get a Merfolk Trickster, the Arbiter, and they've just strip-mined themselves in that instance. I mean, they get our castle, but that's not how it worked out. But this is probably still okay. I think I might honestly run out the Echoing Truth on their Vial on the instep here. This had the potential to be a really cool line if our opponent had gone for the Ghost Quarter and we Trickster the Arbiter, meaning that they don't get to stop us. I mean, we could have, of course, just paid it for as well, but this line, I think, just gives us a lot of options, and I don't know that we need to go faster than them, nor do I think we're going to go faster than them, given that they have a Vial and they're on the play. So I'm less interested in tempoing them out than I am just trying to gain whatever advantages I can, which is why I opted for this line here. And it doesn't really change our damage output, right? Is the thing, because whether we play Silvergill in our main phase there or Trickster on their end step here, we're still attacking for 2 next turn. Blade Splicer, huh? Okay. Well, this works out too. I'm just going to Echoing Truth this token. Removal spell of sorts right there. All right, now let's see what we want to do. We have lots of options again. Now without a land drop. Spreading Seas, huh? Okay. I think this is where we start Silvergilling. The Spreading Seas line is still available to us. Maybe we'll get lucky. My opponent will... there we go. We'll get lucky. My opponent will remove that last counter from Gemstone Mine, and then we'll cut them off of all their colored mana. All right, so they have 2 cards in hand. They do have something with their Vial here. It is a... drumroll, another Leonin Arbiter. So we really don't care much about that, is the thing. They have 1 card in hand, 2 after their draw step now, but they have Dorks in play, right? These creatures aren't scary to us. Birds of Paradise, they're down to nothing. Yeah, they can attack. I'm going to win this race for sure, so bring it on. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy just racing here. It's possible I should have gone for this in the tapped down mode, but I'm going to save that for next turn, I think. Play out this. Keep this on 2. Dismember, huh? Not bad. All right, well, Spreading Seas this thing first. Take him off white mana. Another Lord. That's pretty good. Well, this allows us to sort of save the Trickster here, right? So we can come in for 7 unblockable damage, put our opponent down to 13. We get to hold up Dismember if they do anything. They have 1 draw here. This game seems like it's working out pretty well for us. We are not a deck that cares much about the tax effects of Leonin Arbiter, that's for sure. If we had a bunch of fetch lands in our deck, their draw might have worked out a little better. So they are throwing away the Gemstone Mine here to play Wrenn 6. Well, that is a good card. And that card is pretty decent against us, as a matter of fact, but don't think it's going to be quite good enough here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just dismember one of these. We got to use it now while our life still means something, right? We'll go down to 8. I could just block, but my opponent would Wrenn 6. So it's interesting. If my opponent had not played the Wrenn 6 pre-combat and attacked, I might have blocked. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have, but I would have considered it. And then they could have pinged down our Lord. As it stands, so they are just they're very dead here. We can hit a Lord and just win on the spot. But if not, we have plenty of options still available to us, such as double Trickster. All right, we will attack our opponent. I guess I don't much care about the Wrenn 6. So at the same time, I could just kill it, and it wouldn't change the clock. Sure. Like I said, I don't really think this particularly matters, but I don't know. I hate that Planeswalker. Get out of here, Wrenn 6. This card was so good for Jund. I hate this card in Jund. It is powerful. All right, our opponent's going to throw away the Sunbaked Canyon here. Try to find something so they don't die. I don't even know what they're looking for at this point, especially given that we have, we have the Island Walk, but we also are going to have 2 Tricksters in play. So even if they did find removal for our Lords, that would not work out for them, which kind of is what they're representing, right? They're representing that they could bolt, say, one of our Lords, causing the other one to lose Island Walk, block it with the Leonin Arbiter, and take the 3 at that point. But unfortunately for them, they don't know that we have these Tricksters. We actually can't. Actually, it's not even going to matter even if they did have removal, because we're just going to remove all their blockers. Island Walk, not needed, as it turns out. Okay, run the other one out here. Yep, that one, they had the Bird's Paradise to jump block up until that last one there. There you go, everybody. Merfolk taking down, I don't even know what to call that. It's a Taxes deck of some sort, but Merfolk getting it done in Modern. All right, everybody, let's see if we can close it out with a win here, match 3. All right, more Modern Merfolk here, and this hand is a keep. I like this hand. It's an interesting hand, but all right, blue-white from our opponent over there, huh? This hand's pretty good against blue-white, that's for sure. Just drawing any creature there is good. I mean, obviously we'd prefer like Silvergills or something here, but this works out just fine. We get to play Cavern next turn. We have Force of Negation, should we ever need it. It does not counter a Supreme Verdict, which is probably the most relevant one. But it does counter Teferi or something like that. Non-creature spells. Alright, so the thing is I kind of want to play all of my lands out here. So I'm going to actually play this game like this, I think. The thing is, I'm almost tempted to just play the Lord. But I don't think I want to do that. I think I'm just going to pass the turn back here and see what happens. Because I can Vial in the Biomancer on the incept and the Trickster and then untap into a big attack. I think that's what I want to do. So it's Grixis from our opponent. Okay. Don't know what, but Grixis something. Or, we'll see. Esper, sorry, not Grixis. Okay, so let's go ahead and play out the Trickster. I guess I don't really know what creatures we'd have to worry about here, so I think it's just running this out as a flash threat is perfectly reasonable. It resolves. We need to get this Biomancer out here as well. Right, so we actually like all of our lands as a thing. We don't really have anything to loot away. Well, like this Faerie Conclave, for instance. I am actually going to play the Conclave here. Our opponent doesn't have a second white, right? If we were scared of... Okay. I was going to say, if we were scared of a Supreme Verdict, our opponent doesn't have a second white for it, for what it's worth. So I'm just going to go ahead and file this thing in. We are playing a little aggressively here, right? Which I'm going to be honest, I don't love, because we do get somewhat blown out by a verdict here. They're going to draw too, huh? I can't force a negation it because it's my turn, so I guess you get your 2 cards. We have lots of creature lands, but, well, that Field of Ruin, that's not a Wrath. So, I don't even know what Wrath they could have here. They're going to do this. Okay, that's fine. This is actually low-key kind of okay for us, because with that mana in our pool, now we get an untapped island. We actually can just cast the Force of Negation, which is something to remember. You don't always have to exile it. If our opponent goes for some kind of follow-up play here, we just cast it. They are, of course, moving phases, so we don't have that option available to us right now, but it will be later. Which is the other reason why at the time I played the Conclave, so I could have the mana to cast it, rather than playing the Mutavault. Alright, Trickster, huh? Well, I guess we just go to combat. Not going to swing with the Conclave here because we have the Trickster. And I want to keep up the Force. We have the Trickster with the Vial and the Force with the... Now, do I care about this? I don't really think this is what I want to force. It is a pretty good Force target, though. It means we get in for a lot on this turn. Yeah, I think I'm fine with this. The thing is, if my opponent's forcing or pathing my creature here, oh, they're gonna force back. Oh, fair enough. They exiled a remand. Okay. Interesting turn of events right there, honestly. So at this point, I think I just run this out here. Because if my opponent's wrathing, it tells me they don't, or I'm sorry, if they're pathing, it means they don't have a wrath. And that means I think I'm free to load up the board here, and even if they were to untap and wrath, I can fire up the Conclave, the Mutavault, and the Trickster and attack for 6. So this works out pretty okay. And now they're just passing the turn back to us anyways, so this works out great. They do of course have Cryptic Command open now. Well, that's pretty good for us. Huh. Next turn they can activate the Colonnade, which is something to keep in mind. We have currently 2 ways to deal with that, but they could do it. I'm going to activate one of these lands here. I'm just not sure which one. I think the Conclave is the one we want to fire up. And now if they have Cryptic, I can activate the Mutavault in the beginning of combat, so we'll see. And that is what's going to happen. Okay, so your Cryptic Command resolves. I'll turn my Mutavault into a creature. And we'll still poke in there for 2. The creature lands make a giant difference in this deck, that's for sure. Mutavault's always been good, but this trick of the interaction with Cryptic, especially since, for whatever reason, people have decided Cryptic Command is a playable Modern card again, and I guess our opponent here with Remand. Not cards you see very often, but I hope this is the future with the Mox Opal decks gone. I'm going to be honest, I love it. This is good old-fashioned Magic right here. Okay, so what do we hit? Harbinger of the Tides. Okay. Well, I think I'm happy to run the same line back. Yeah, we're stockpiling resources while our opponent does this. And sure, they're cycling Cryptics, but, we're still dealing damage. Well, looks like now they might be representing a path here, but even that's fine. These is just all these are all temporary measures for them. They're not dealing with our board, and we just keep drawing things we can vial in. If they ever were to find a Wrath spell, which is how they get out of this. So, and of course, if we ever hit lands, we can loot them away to the Biomancer. So we hold all the cards, despite the fact, well, that our opponent has more cards than us. All right, so the thing is, now they can activate the Colonnade, but that's not very good for them. I guess I'll keep that. So this makes me want to just activate the Mutavault instead. This time around. Since now they're representing this, I want to be able to Trickster and Lord if they had a bunch. So I'm just going to fire up the Mutavault instead. Because I need to keep open the blue source. And see what happens. Alright, Cryptic again. Fair enough. Okay, so now I can activate this, and we'll still get in for 2. This is the more mana-efficient way to do what we've been doing, so it continues to work out very fine for us. Think about this, though, by the way. Think about this game if we didn't have these creature lands attacking. If our opponent just Cryptic Commanded us, they'd still be at +6 life. They'd be sitting at 9 right now, and this game would look entirely different. Instead, they're so low that even if they find an answer to the board, we're still just in great shape with everything we have sitting in our hand. It doesn't take much to give us lethal. There's Field of Ruin. That is certainly an answer for him. But I don't think I've had to play a card in like 4 turns or something. I will play a Waterlogged Grove. I'm trying to figure out what to do here, because the thing is we have lethal with the creatures in play, but I want to play around actual removal here by firing this up, just to give us an additional lethal threat, right? This gives us... They'd have to deal with 2 of our things, and they're going to Field of Ruin the Mutavault. This is fine. This is perfectly fine, as a matter of fact. I'm going to let this resolve. I'm going to use this to activate the Conclave, maybe. They do still have Cryptic open, so maybe I don't want to do that. But I could use that floating mana to just cycle the Waterlogged Grove. kind of like that. Let's see what they're doing here. Oh, I don't even know what this does. Okay. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Exile all cards from each opponent's graveyard. Create a token. You gain 4 life. They get all 4 of them? That's a lot of things. Is that how that works? Alright, I will sack a creature. They get all of... That's crazy. That's a cool card. Choose 2. Oh, it has Entwine. I see. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so you get 2 of them, but if you Entwine it, you get all 4 of them, which is why my opponent had all 4 of them. Good for them. I think they're still dead, though, right? This can block our... Well, okay, let's see here. 2, 3, 5, 7. Yeah, I think they're dead. So I'm going to go ahead and Trickster down their token. I'm going to turn this into a creature. I'm going to Violin the Master of the Pearl Trident. And now we get a swing for 7 damage. So the Merfolk had Island Walk, but this would have actually gotten blocked by the token. So there we go. That worked out perfectly. That's how I like to play against control right there, everybody. That's how it's supposed to work. All right, to the sideboard here. How do we want to board? We go. We'll do this, I guess. We'll keep the 2 Harbingers and 2 Deprives. I think I like that better than going 3 Deprives. Hard to say. And again, Deprive and Cryptic is just very good. I kind of wish I had Spell Pierces somewhere in the 75, but that's a thing that kind of comes and goes, right? This hand, however, is a mulligan, and this hand's a keep. So I'm going to throw away the Dismember here. We didn't see Stoneforge from our opponent, so we don't know, but that's a win condition. We have a very slow hand, for what it's worth. That helps. But yeah, I've died to a Creeping Tar Pit or 2 in my time. That is a thing that occurs. Okay, so let's see here. We will up this thing to 1. And I think that I like just passing with Deprive open. I think that's better than playing out a Relic that doesn't really do anything right now. Obviously, it starts to slowly kind of eat away at their graveyard, but I would ideally like to hit a 3rd land and then do that with Deprive. I'd like to just keep Deprive open for as long as possible. And with the Benthic Biomancer in play, we can loot as well if we need to. Not that I see myself wanting to do that quite yet. But hey, having the Biomancer is a start. Interesting. Okay. Let's get in there. Not a land that we hit, but who knows? Maybe I can just hide behind this Deprive for forever. Yeah, I'm fine letting that get pushed. The Biomancer is the same as the Lord when we play out the Lord here. On there in step again. So the Lord actually hits a little harder, given that I didn't want to loot there. I mean, maybe I'm supposed to. I'm not a player who likes to loot when I like my hand. Because, you know, what if I throw away Force or Deprive or something there, and then we hit land, we hit nothing but lands. This, however, is going to get deprived very hard. And my opponent cannot force back, because it is their turn. Very nice clause. You know, Force of Negation is pretty wordy for what it does, but the clause that you can only cast it for free on your opponent's turn, very much appreciated, I'll say that. Because it really does incredible work to balance the card. So, you know, we don't have to get into force wars over my opponent's chase. I could just force it and be done with. Or rather, they couldn't force my Deprive there. And there is our land. So we get a... Yeah, this is working out pretty much how we want to here. We get to attack in, poke our opponent down. We still have Deprive up. Next turn, we even have Force up. But, you know, depending on what our opponent does, next turn we can Deprive... We can Relic and hold up Deprive. Because That's the card advantage. Obviously, our opponent can just play something like Jace, but the thing that kind of turns the corner is when they start getting Snapcaster involved. Now, of course, so they have Jace up, they have Cryptic up, and go for the sacrifice and gain 4 life, huh? I don't think I really want to let them do that. Because I don't have any other creatures, and it's very important that we keep the pressure on. If I had another creature to replace it with, sure, but I don't. They have the path here. Okay, well. Guess it's going away anyways, but we drew something else. I mean, I'd like to hit a blue card, if nothing else, right? Just give me a blue card on my draw step. Please, deck. Would appreciate it. That was a pretty blue card. Really not what I was talking about. The trouble we have here now is that, you know, because we drew a bunch of lands, and maybe if I had looted, I would have looted one of them away. I don't know. But this hurts. I mean, we might not get punished for it if our opponent does this and just passes the turn back. But it was a little scary because we can't do anything with that Force of Negation. If our opponent were to just play it, we'd have to pop the Relic if our opponent played another Jace, for instance, and try to hit a blue card to counter it. We are getting to the point, I mean, not yet, but eventually they can Field of Ruinous and start getting in here with this Tar Pit. But now we just want some creatures. That's all we need. And that fits the bill, as a matter of fact. We can hard cast the Force of Negation now, so we basically just have a third counterspell available to us. You know, we're slowly working on our opponent's graveyard with the Relic. That's obviously sort of the dream where you don't have to, you know, you sort of force their hand. You don't have to crack it in response to a Snapcaster or something. You because that's always the threat, right? And your opponent plays around that. But if you can just do the slow, natural grind of getting them this way, then the pressure becomes on them to use the Snapcaster proactively, which is usually not something that really works out very well for them. All right, going to play the Trickster out here just to get damage onto the board. We just want to poke every turn, right? That's as long as you have something keeping up the pressure. Sometimes it doesn't matter what. But like I said, Merfolk these days, it's not a thing where we aren't scared of playing the game until turn 10. And this is exactly one of the reasons why, right there. Castle Vantress. So we get to scry 2 on our opponent's instep. Or, you know, possibly when they Field of Ruin it. But it's just a powerful card. I suspect we're going to get Field of Ruin here on the instep. Snapcaster, huh? Interesting. Resolves. Target. Kaya's Guile. Well, sure, I guess I'll crack it. It's an interesting line from them here. I hit a Waterlogged Grove, okay. Well, the benefit for my opponent is that I'm not going to get a Castle Vantress here, right? They can Field of Ruin it away, and I won't have the opportunity, but oh no. Or they could play Baneslayer Angel, like it's 2010, and that's pretty good. Huh. All right. Well then. Shield's down, though, if we can find a Lord or something here. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to do this, but it is something to keep in mind. I could Castle Vantress in my upkeep since I have the Vial, but I have the Waterlogged Grove, so I'm just going to look at 2 cards here instead. And this is a pretty good one, I think. I'm going to hit the Field of Ruin or the Tar Pit? I think the Field of Ruin. Field of Ruin is also their mana fixing to get their black mana. And there's a Thassa. Okay. Well, we have a plan. I don't know if that plan's good or not, but we do have a plan. We're going to get hit by the Baneslayer Angel, that's for sure. But remember what I said about not being afraid to go to the late game? We're going to put that to the test right now because we're going to have to just try to answer this Baneslayer Angel one way or another. Oof. Or we're going to get to ferried right on out. Yeah, well. Get a little punished there by not having a blue card for this. I mean, if we were able to force that thing, would not have been an issue. But I think I needed to play Thassa. I mean, if we hit a double blue devotion here, we actually can kill this thing. And we have a scry to do it. Because we'll be able to vial something in and then protect with force. And use Thassa to take this out. So we just need to catch a break here. Oh, no, our top couple draws. Well, that's certainly one I'm going to bottom. Now do I want to... The problem with castling here is that I can't force. And since I have the Grove, I think I'm just going to take the draw and see what we hit. Give me a Lord, right? Give me an Island Walking Lord. Silvergill's a start. That gets us to 5 devotion by it. That gets us there, actually. It gets us to 5. And we get a draw. Another Silvergill. Not that that does us a ton of good at the moment. Alright, so let's make the Thassa unblockable. And send this thing into Fairy. So, I mean, I guess this is about as good as it gets when your opponent has Baneslayer and Teferi out. Do what you can, right? We're still working on how to deal with the Baneslayer. We've got some more Tricksters. I think there's a couple there's, what, one Harbinger in there still, too? Yep, down to 10. Okay, well, let's crack this. See what we hit. Another force, okay. Oh, this game has turned out... This has been a very interesting game. Bottom that. Nope. Give me a Lord. That's not bad either. Okay, well, let's attack. See what happens. Pathar Thassa, huh? I don't want this to happen. I'm going to counter this. I don't know that this counter is going to actually counter it, but we're going to give it a shot. I have another... We'll see if it matters. If my opponent counters back, I have an idea. I don't know if it's a good idea, but I have an idea. It's an interesting idea. I'll be proud of myself if it comes to this. It does come to this, as a matter of fact. So, I can't counter this one. But what I can do is allow it to resolve. Okay, my force is off to sack. You're trying to path my Thassa. I'm going to Echoing Truth my Trickster, making my devotion less than 5, making the path fizzle, and then we can Trickster the Baneslayer. So, I don't know about this line. But it is what we're going to do. And I still have a Force of Negation for what it's worth for their turn. I'd feel a lot better if they had less, less in play. But, I'm sorry, fewer cards in hand. All right, well, we'll get the Trickster in here to take care of the Baneslayer. This Tar Pit might become a problem, though. This puts us back up to 4 devotion. We have the Silvergill for next turn. Obviously, I hope to not have to force anything here. Just give me the turn back. Just have nothing, right? All right, here it comes. It's a Jace. I have to force this, I think. Maybe. What would happen if I didn't force this and I let it resolve? They go up to 5. I can kill that with Thassa. They bounce our Trickster. That's good for us. I mean, they're going to Brainstorm is the answer. I don't know. I don't see any of these options being good for us, to be honest, but I don't think I can win by throwing away these cards here. I think I have to go for Silvergill, hope that I can take out Jace. Another Colonnade. These creature lands won us game 1, might win them game 2. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, game. Alright. We will reveal the Lord of Atlantis from our hand. Play the Silvergill. Draw a card. Another Silvergill is pretty good. I will move to combat, where we will attack that at them and this at... well, yeah, I think I just have to play the Lord. I don't know how we're supposed to win this race right now, so I think I have to do this like this. And vial out the Lord to make it lethal on the Jace. Okay, well, Jace down. We have Force up, but our opponent's going to have more life than we can deal with. So we're still in a little bit of a pickle. The best thing that could happen for us is that our opponent goes for some sort of big play like Jace or Teferi that we can force here. If they're just activating lands, I think we're probably in more trouble. They want to make us discard too. I mean, I guess I have to counter that. That's fine. I mean, this is them not attacking us with Creeping Tar Pit or Celestial Colonnade. I still think this Baneslayer Angel is just probably going to go... Wow! They're pulling the trigger on a verdict, huh? That's insane to me. That was so good for... Oh, wow, they didn't even attack first. Okay. Now I just want to draw Spreading Seas. We're in this thing. We have got a chance to pull this one out. I guess I'm much lower than my opponent on clock, so that's kind of a problem. What do I want to do with the Mutavault? I think that it's fine. Actually, I'm going to bottom that. I want a creature. And I did not want a Cavern of Souls, but I will play a Cavern of Souls. All right, let's see. Well, okay. So let's go ahead and do this like this. We'll use the ability, put our Silvergill out. I have to decide how I want to do this, because if I scry first, then, I mean, if I want to make Thassa a creature, I need a scry, but I still didn't be able to play it. I think that means I have to just draw the card and hope that we hit. And if we don't, then I get a scry for the next turn. I don't think scrying now, because if I scry now, I won't be able to play it. So let's just see what we hit here. Oh, Deprive, huh? Okay. Well, all right. Our opponent is at 18. We're at 10. They still somehow don't have a second black mana to fire up the tar pit. They could get in there with a colonnade. That doesn't kill us for several turns, though, but I guess I'd rather them just go for a Teferi or something that we get a Deprive and then get another free turn, so to speak. But here we go. We're going to see what it is. They are thinking about it. It is the colonnade. So, I don't know. The point of the game that they're attacking you with colonnade is generally pretty bad. That said, I think we got a shot here. I think we at least got a shot. All right, Castle Vantress, you've been around for a while. Let's see what you got. Bottom and top, please. Okay, we will keep that on top. Again, obviously, we will not use the ability. All right, we'll vial this thing out. I have the Deprive to protect it, so... And I think this attack's going to work. We get in for 8. Put our opponent down to 10. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this, I think I need to do this so that I can... I've been holding it in case we draw a Biomancer, but now I would like to be able to Deprive and activate Castle Vantress. Because we need to find a Lord and deliver lethal. We need our opponent... Well, I guess if they keep the Colonnade back on defense, that's good for us. We still get in with the Island Walkers. You know, we've got a shot here. This has been a bizarre game, right? This has been awesome. This has been a really cool Castle Vantress game. This has been a cool Thassa game. I still love that Echoing Truth play on our creature to fizzle their path, because I know how key Thassa is in the matchup. I know, Magic Online, I know. All right. No, my opponent's all tapping to deal with that too. All right, so let's see what they're doing here. Cryptic Bounce, huh? Well, you know what? That's got to be good for me, right? That's the line they're taking. And I guess with the Deprive, we still have fodder in hand for Biomancer. If they have another... Okay, it worked. Now, that means we're not getting attacked by a Colonnade. And it means the Colonnade isn't coming back on defense. And it seems to me if main phase Cryptic Command Bounce your Lord of Atlantis is the play, you probably don't have a super strong follow-up for that. And we're going to get a Scry again. Scry 3, if we really want to look at it that way. Not quite Scry 3, but Scry 2 and then Scry 1. Scry 2 probably good enough to get us there, though, honestly. All right, well, my opponent's in the tank. They don't have a verdict. And now, again, all these turns where our opponent isn't killing us also means that we're live to just draw Spreading Seas and Spreading Seas the Colonnade and or the Tar Pit, because sometimes you just string together a couple of Spreading Seas and your opponent can't really do much. So, who knows? Maybe Spreading Seas at Field of Ruin, they've just got all double black cards in hand or something, right? They're certainly in the tank about this one, though. I don't know what they're looking to do. We're going to find out. Esper Charm, draw 2. Wow. Shields down. Were they hoping for an untapped white source? Black source is not that. I mean, it's Fatal Push. I guess it's similar. And as a matter of fact, there is a Fatal Push. Okay. Well, means we don't have lethal, right? Does mean we get a Scry, though. Scry 2. 1. Biomancer doesn't really get us there. It's certainly not bad. We get a loot with it. I think that I'm going to bottom it, and then I think on my upkeep, if we don't find... I want a 2 blue card, so we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that given that we can scry on our upkeep with Vantress if we need to, it'd be just fine here. So let's see, maybe we'll just find it. A Relic is also an interesting draw, but I don't think it's what we want right now. I'm going to stop yielding to this so I can respond. I mean, I could just cycle it, but... And there is certainly value in exiling their graveyard. But I think given the way things have gone, and now they do have their black mana, I just want to get in for a big hit here. So we'll put it on the bottom. Now I'll scry. I mean, our opponent has to love this, right? Oof, okay. I'm going to keep that one on top. This is what we're working with. It is not what we wanted. I guess it could still be, right? We could, we hit this Colonnade with the Spreading Seas. We could hit any 2-drop will get us there. That's a 2-drop that gets us there. See, this is interesting too. I think I have to go for it, but the thing is that Harbinger's actually pretty good against my opponent's Creeping Tar Pit, right? But I think that I have to get in for 7 here. Put my opponent down to 3. This way, they have to keep us off Thassa again, or have a path for it. I mean, like I said, this is that's an interesting turn right there, you know. But I think this is the point of the game where we want to try to apply some pressure. Now my opponent's probably sitting on Cryptic Command, if I had to guess. Biomancer, huh? I don't think I want this, because I don't think I'm ever going to draw another bad card, is the thing. I'll just keep scrying and seeing what we got. Now, these I like. So I've got a Trickster and a Spreading Seas, huh? I like them both. I like Trickster, and then I like drawing the Spreading Seas the Tar Pit, drawing the Trickster, which I can vial in. So that's how we're going to do this here. All right, I'll say no to this. I do think I need to go for the... well. There's so many interesting things going on here, right? If my opponent has Cryptic, I don't want to let him counter my Spreading Seas. So I think I'm going to attack first. They're going to Cryptic now. They're going to bounce the Thassa. That's fine with me. Okay. Well, this means I get to take this line then. At least I get to try. The problem is now, of course, my opponent has so many. I mean, they have one card in hand. If that last card is Cryptic, we're in trouble. That would be pretty nuts for them. Unfortunately, it looks like it could be. It's certainly something. It's a Logic Knot. Okay, well, that gets us, unfortunately. I cannot attack, and now my Thassa's dead. So, dead for the turn anyways. I mean, my opponent's out of cards. You know, they just draw a land right here. They're in trouble. So, let's see if they whiff on something. They drew a Colonnade. Well, it's not a land, but that should be good enough for us, right? We'll draw this. Wow, what a match this was. This was insane. No, I will not use the ability. I will, however, draw this Trickster, move to combat, and when my opponent, in their desperation, fires up a Creeping Tar Pit, I will Trickster it down. What a game, right? All right, make sure I got the stop set here. Merfolk Trickster, get on in there for the win. What an epic match that was, everybody. Thank you for sticking around to watch, because that was crazy. My opponent, of course, going to shock themselves to death. They're going to go out on their own terms. Good for them, but we took it down. I won't lie, I think Merfolk versus Control may be my favorite matchup, because I just love the interplay and the playing around Cryptics and working with your creature lands and all of that. I love it. That match was incredible, everybody. I'm Corbin Hosler. This is Mining Modern. Thank you so much for watching.